prior to this meeting, but I had no additional exchanges. I don't know if anybody else did.
Yes.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. Rebecca O'Hara for the Florida League of Cities. And I too was a member of this team of folks that put together a letter and some suggestions to you. And I'm not going to duplicate the testimony of the folks that have come before me, but I've seen the struggle that everybody has been having, and as I too have struggled with this. And I think the trouble is that we're trying to provide some definiteness to what is, I think, an inherently subjective term that is going to be applied in very subjective circumstances. And we all want certainty ahead of time, and it's very difficult, a difficult thing to do. But two things that I wanted to touch on before you move into your deliberations. Regarding the safe harbor, I'm sensitive to the fact that, and to the comments that have been made, that what we don't want is to have this be, undoing the Constitution just by saying, well, we are just going to go back to just having the statute and have it mean the same thing. And I think while the immediately preceding speaker did a great job of outlining why what we're calling this, quote, safe harbor is necessary, maybe a way to address this in a way that doesn't appear to just making it be the same old is, I think, maybe a rephrasing of what's in the alternative that staff has, by the way, great job in your work. Maybe rephrasing that, because I think the important takeaway of that, just for lack of a better word, safe harbor provision, is preserving those exemptions that have been referenced, that need to purchase go to the hardware store, when the hurricane has come, and the only thing standing is that hardware store, and it's owned by the mayor. What are you going to do? And the legislature over the years has recognized that there are circumstances in which there have to be some exceptions to these situations. And so, and yes, you can get, you could get an after-the-fact determination by this body, but should you be in that position of having to render opinion after opinion, and should a person who is desiring to do the right thing in every circumstance want to be hauled before the commission, and this is a very intimidating situation. Nobody wants to be in that position. Providing some certainty ahead of time, you'd be doing a great service to the citizens of the state, understanding that it is a hard thing to do. And lastly, I think one thing that really hasn't been mentioned that much, but very briefly, is when you're considering the factors here, providing some element or consideration of materiality of the benefit that's received, I think would go a long way towards addressing some kind of minimum consideration for things that really aren't all that important, that way, particularly if you decide to not go with the definitions, because we've had that previous discussion about, well, do we mean that we're talking about the umpire down at the public park who's calling balls and strikes and, gets the Capri Sun from the parent? I mean, is that what we're talking about here? And so if you're maybe considering adding an element of whether the benefit is material or not, which I don't believe is in your current staff alternative, that might go a long way to reducing some of the things that might come before you in the future as you implement this rule. And happy to take any questions at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. O'Hara, do we have questions for Ms. O'Hara?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. I'm Ben Wilcox with Integrity Florida. Like President Yates, I'm here today in support of the original proposed rule that was developed by your staff. It seems to me that there's a little bit of some overthinking that's going on here. The constitutional amendment asks this commission to do two fairly simple things. It doesn't ask you to create safe harbors or exemptions or definitions of public employees and other things. Integrity Florida believes the rule you adopt should be consistent with the intent of the members of the Constitutional Revision Commission who wrote Amendment 12 and voted to put it before Florida voters. It should also be consistent with the intent of the voters who supported the amendment by 79% of the vote, the highest percentage of passage of any of the 12 amendments on the ballot. The framers of Amendment 12, and I think President Gates agrees with me, and the voters who supported it, do not want this rule to codify the status quo. Florida voters passed Amendment 12 because they wanted to set the ethical bar higher in Florida. And we believe that is your task and your responsibility today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox. Other questions for Mr. Wilcox?
Thank you for your brevity.
Anyone else to speak during the workshop? All right, with that, we will close the workshop. We will take a 10-minute break. Thank you.